Welcome to the Empowered Meaning Coaching Podcast Series. I'm your host, Louise and Maurice. You know I love hearing from you. So in the comment section, make sure that you're sharing your experience. And if this material is resonating with you, make sure you're giving it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from it. Let's continue. Are resilient people confident? What do you think? Well, in this final episode, episode 12 of the Empowered Meaning Coaching Podcast Series, we are going to look at resilience and confidence. And we'll begin with the meaning of resilience, what it is, what it isn't. And then we'll look at resilience and confidence research, so that you have some really good background information. And then we'll look at the low resilient people's limiting beliefs. It's important to understand those limiting beliefs so that you understand what's going on underneath the surface. And then I'll provide you with 5 coaching low resilient people, 5 coaching questions to guide them and give you a lot of insight on how to coach this specific type of person. And then 5 additional coaching questions. I'll have those available as a free PDF download on my website. Remember, never any email address required, always free to download. All right, so we're going to wrap up the Empowered Meaning Coaching, this podcast series, looking at resilience. And we'll start with the meaning. Dictionary definition as well as other meanings as well. Let's continue. Here's some quick tip reminders. There's a lot of great information contained in this podcast. I don't want you to miss anything. So if you like to read as you listen to me, click on the CC to pull up the closed captions. This gear icon, when you click on it, this will pull up the settings. The playback speed is on normal. When you click on that, you can increase the speed to 2x, which will make this go quicker. Let's continue. Let's start by dissecting the meaning of resilience, beginning with what it means to you. When you think of the word resilience, what one word or phrase would you use to describe it? I want you to keep that word in mind as I discuss the dictionary definition of resilience. From the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, it's the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused especially by compressive stress. An ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Now, on the PDF document that I have available for you, free to download, I'll show you toward the end of the video, end of the podcast, where to find it. But I have an image next to that definition that says resilience. And it has all of these words: optimism, self-belief, control of self, willingness to adapt, willingness to be flexible, ability to solve problems, emotional awareness, social support, sense of humor. And this is someone else's idea of what resilience means to them. So I wonder how close that was to the one word or phrase that you use to describe resilience. Because everyone will come to this with a different meaning depending on their experiences. Now, what are some of the character traits of people who are resilient? Well, for people who have that ability to cope with and overcome challenges and hardships, they can self-regulate and set boundaries. They can control their emotions and actions and accept what they can and cannot change. They also keep very good company. They seek out and surround themselves with other resilient people who can offer support and inspiration. They have a sense of control. They believe that they have the power to influence their outcomes and make choices that matter. They practice gratitude. They appreciate what they have and express thankfulness for the positive aspects of their lives. They are optimistic. They have a positive outlook and expect good things to happen in the future. And even if good things don't happen, they know that they can handle it because they're adaptable. They're flexible and willing to adjust to changing situations and circumstances. They are resourceful. They use their skills, knowledge, and creativity to solve problems and find solutions. They have a sense of purpose. They have clear goals and values that guide their actions and give meaning to their lives. They learn from experience. They view challenges as opportunities to grow and improve themselves. They have self-compassion. They treat themselves with kindness and forgiveness and avoid harsh criticism. Now, these are just some of the traits that can help you to become more resilient, but also guide others to do the same. However, always remember that resilience is not a fixed trait that you either have or you don't have. It's a skill that can be learned and developed over time. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, people who lack resilience are those who have difficulty coping with and recovering from challenges and hardships. They tend to have some of the following traits. They have a victim mentality. They blame others or external factors for their problems and feel powerless to change their situation. They have an inability to admit mistakes. They refuse to take responsibility for their actions and learn from their failures. They have a lack of control. They feel that they have no influence over their outcomes and make choices that are passive or impulsive. They have a negative outlook. They focus on the worst case scenarios and expect bad things to happen in the future. They are rigid and inflexible. They resist change and struggle to adapt to new situations and circumstances. They are dependent and isolated. They rely on others to solve their problems and avoid social support and connection. They have low self-compassion. They are harsh and critical of themselves and have difficulty forgiving and accepting themselves. Now, these are just some of the traits that can hinder resilience. However, remember, resilience is a skill that can be learned. So if you find that you are working with someone or know people who have low resilience and it's impacting their ability to be successful, keep listening because I'm going to share with you some strategies that you can use. But now that you do know the dictionary definition of resilience and some of the character traits of people who are resilient and who lack resilience, how close was the dictionary definition to the one word or phrase that you used to describe resilience? Now, from that dictionary definition of resilience and the character traits of people who are resilient and lack resilience, I want you to think of people you know who fit those descriptions. And I'm going to share with you some research, so it's going to help you to gain some insight and perspective. But before we get to that research, let's look deeper at the meaning of resilience, what it is and what it is not, as well as some myths associated with it. Because this is going to help you to guide people because it seems like everyone has a different meaning, remember, based on their experiences. And then with the myths, it's also going to help you to dismiss some of the beliefs that people have. All right. Remember, resilience is a term that can have different meanings for different people, but generally it refers to the ability to cope with and recover from adversity, such as stress, trauma, or loss. Resilience is not a fixed trait that people either have or don't have, nor is it a state of being immune to negative emotions or difficulties. Resilience is a dynamic process that involves using various skills, resources, and supports to adapt and learn from challenges. Some of the common myths associated with resilience are: myth 1, resilience is rare and only for extraordinary people. Well, this myth suggests that resilience is something that only a few people possess or can achieve. However, research shows that most people exhibit resilience after experiencing a traumatic event, and that resilience is a normal and common response to adversity. Myth 2. Resilience is all about being positive and optimistic. Well, this myth implies that resilient people never feel sad, angry, or afraid, and that they always see the bright side of things. However, resilience is not about denying or suppressing negative emotions, but rather acknowledging and managing them in healthy ways. Resilient people also balance optimism with realism and do not ignore or minimize the problems they face. Myth 3. Resilience is something you are born with and cannot change. This myth assumes that resilience is a fixed and innate characteristic that cannot be influenced by external factors. However, resilience is not a static or genetic trait, but rather a dynamic and learnable skill that can be enhanced by various factors, such as social support, coping strategies, self-compassion, and personal growth. All right, so now that you know the myths associated with people who are resilient, the character traits of people who are resilient and people who lack resilience, as well as the dictionary definition and the meaning, what does the research say? Are resilient people confident? Well, let's look at some of that research next. Resilience and confidence research. Some researchers believe that resilience is formed in childhood through various experiences that shape how those children cope with stress and adversity. Some healthy ways that resilience is formed include having supportive and nurturing relationships with parents, caregivers, or other adults, having opportunities to learn and practice self-regulation, problem solving, and coping skills, and having a sense of belonging and identity. Now, some unhealthy or distorted ways that resilience is formed include experiencing abuse, neglect, trauma, or violence, having inconsistent or harsh parenting, or having unmet emotional or physical needs. These experiences can impact people into adulthood by affecting their mental and physical health, their self-esteem and self-worth, their relationships and social skills, and their ability to cope with challenges and opportunities. Some situations that can trigger people to become less resilient are having a long-term physical or mental health condition that affects their daily functioning and well-being. Another situation that can trigger people to become less resilient are experiencing discrimination and hate, such as racism, homophobia, biphobia, or transphobia that undermines their sense of safety and dignity. And the final situation that can trigger people to become less resilient are facing a major life change or loss, such as divorce, death of a loved one, job loss, or financial crisis that disrupts their stability and security. Now, the main fear that people experience when they lack resilience is the fear of failure or not being good enough. This fear can stem from having low self-esteem, low self-confidence, or low self-efficacy, or from having unrealistic or perfectionist expectations of themselves or others. The belief that comes from that fear is that they are powerless, helpless, or hopeless to change their situation or achieve their goals. They may also believe that they are unworthy, undeserving, or unlovable, or that they are doomed to repeat their mistakes or suffer their fate. The feelings that they experience when they lack resilience are often negative, intense, and overwhelming, such as anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, or depression. They may also experience numbness, apathy, or detachment, or have difficulty expressing or regulating their emotions. The behaviors and defense mechanisms that they use as protective measures when they lack resilience are often unhealthy, unhelpful or harmful, such as avoidance, denial, isolation, self-medication, self-harm, aggression, or risky behaviors. They may also use cognitive distortions, such as blaming, catastrophizing, or minimizing to cope with their negative thoughts or feelings. Now, resilience being that ability to bounce back from setbacks and cope with challenges comes with having confidence, because you've got to be able to believe in your own ability and potential. So research suggests that there is a positive relationship between resilience and confidence, meaning that people who are more resilient tend to have higher levels of confidence and vice versa. One possible explanation for this relationship is that resilience helps people to learn from their mistakes, adapt to changing situations, and overcome obstacles, which in turn boosts their confidence and self-esteem. Conversely, confidence helps people to face difficulties with optimism, courage, and determination, which in turn enhances their resilience and coping skills. Some studies that support this relationship are: a study by Frontiers in Psychology found that learning from mistakes, self-regulation, was a significant predictor of coping and confidence, tenacity and adaptation, and tolerance to negative situations. Likewise, low, medium, high levels of self-regulation correlated with scores on resilience factors. A study by Psychology Today reported that we need to feel calm, secure, and confident in order to do our best, and that our level of self-confidence has a dramatic impact on our ability to reach our goals. And a study by Everyday Health showed that those who are able to interact with, show empathy toward, and inspire confidence and trust in others tend to be more resilient. Therefore, based on these findings, it's concluded that people who lack resilience are likely to have lower levels of confidence than people who are resilient, and that both resilience and confidence can be improved through various strategies and interventions. Now, remember, I always say this, that the research is being shared with you not so that you judge people who lack resilience, but so that it gives you context and understanding. When you understand the origin of their behaviors and thought patterns, you can be authentically compassionate without taking their actions and behaviors personally. All right, so now that we know the research, let's talk about people who have low resilience or lack resilience. What are their limiting beliefs? Remember, limiting beliefs are negative thoughts or assumptions that hold us back from achieving our goals or fulfilling our potential. They can affect our self-confidence, motivation, and resilience. Resilience, that ability to bounce back from challenges and cope with stress, are helpful when you are trying to achieve goals and fulfilling your potential. But people who have low resilience or lack resilience have some of the following limiting beliefs. I can't do anything right. I'm not good enough or smart enough. This other limiting belief, that they don't deserve happiness or success, that they're a failure or a loser. They have no control over their life or their circumstances. They're helpless or hopeless. They can't handle change or uncertainty, and they can't learn from mistakes or grow from feedback. Now, these limiting beliefs, they will stop them in so many ways. In addition, another limiting belief is that they're hopeless. This belief can make them feel powerless and helpless in the face of adversity. Worthless. This belief erodes their self-esteem and self-compassion. And for people that have a religious background, they believe that God is punishing them. This belief can reflect that negative religious coping style that involves attributing difficulties to divine wrath or demonic influence. Now, all of these beliefs prevent people from being successful because they can interfere with their ability to cope with stress, learn from challenges, and grow from their experiences. It can also impact success in other ways as well, preventing them from taking action or pursuing opportunities that can benefit them, make them give up easily, or even avoid challenges that could help them grow. Can lower their self-esteem and self-efficacy, making them doubt their abilities and potential. It can increase their stress and anxiety, affecting their mental and physical health. It can limit their creativity and innovation, reducing their problem-solving skills and adaptability. And it can impair their relationships and communication, making them isolate themselves and lash out at others. But the great news is that these limiting beliefs can be overcome with the help of coaching. And we are definitely going to be looking at that as we continue on. But before that, I have a question for you. Were there times in your life when you lacked resilience? And if so, what limiting belief was fueling you? Times in your life where you just wanted to give up and you just didn't feel like you had the strength to go on, or you were worried and anxious. What was the limiting belief that was fueling you? Remember to always share that in the comment section, as well as how you were able to overcome that. All right, so now that you understand the limiting beliefs, how do you coach people who lack resilience or are low resilient? Coaching someone who lacks resilience with limiting beliefs can be very challenging. But when you do it and you guide someone to move beyond their self-sabotaging behavior and become more resilient, it's such a rewarding process. Now, overcoming their resistance, challenging their negative thoughts, and guiding them to develop a more positive and resilient mindset. That's what you as a coach, a team leader, a manager, that's what you will be doing. And when you help them identify and challenge their limiting beliefs, guide them to replace them with more empowering and supportive ones. You increase their self-confidence and self-esteem, helping them to recognize their strengths and achievements. Now, remember, if you're just listening to this podcast for your own purposes, then when I'm sharing with you coaching, it's about self-coaching. All right, because you want to increase self-awareness and self-regulation so that managing emotions and behaviors becomes second nature. Also, guiding them to increase their optimism and hope, focusing on the positive aspects and possibilities of the situation. Coaching can also help them increase gratitude and appreciation, acknowledging the things and people that enrich their lives. Increasing growth mindset and having them be very learning oriented, embracing feedback and opportunities to improve and learn, letting them know that this is just the natural and normal process of growing, of developing, and it never stops. Increasing flexibility and adaptability, adjusting to change and uncertainty. Increasing problem solving and decision-making skills, finding solutions and taking actions, and then also increasing social support and connection, seeking and offering help and advice from others. Overcoming limiting beliefs and enhancing resilience through your coaching guidance will really help them to unlock their true potential and achieve success in their personal and professional lives. Now, it always begins with establishing trust and rapport. Remember, always using active listening, empathy, and validation to create a safe and supportive space so that they open up and they share their challenges and goals without the fear of being criticized and judged. It's very important that you establish that trust. Helping them to identify and explore their limiting beliefs using the powerful questions that I'm going to share with you, as well as reflections and feedback to help them become aware of their limiting beliefs and how it's affecting their behavior and outcomes. Challenge and reframe those limiting beliefs. Use techniques such as cognitive restructuring and Socratic questioning and just affirmations to help the client examine the validity and impact of their limiting beliefs and guiding them to replace those limiting beliefs with more empowering and realistic ones. Helping the client to foster a sense of self-compassion, because people that lack resilience, maybe they've just been taught to be very self-critical. So it's always tearing them down. And they haven't learned that building themselves up, and yes, even building themselves up in a humble way, if they've been taught not to brag or show any type of arrogance, you can guide them in a way that's going to help them develop more positive and compassionate relationship with themselves, encouraging them to acknowledge their strengths, celebrate their achievements, and forgive their mistakes. And this is going to give them the tools necessary so that with or without you being there, they can learn these tools ongoing. And it's about helping them to take action and achieve their goals. And a plan like this gives them a sense of empowerment that they can do this, always aligning with their values and their vision, and making sure that these are small and manageable steps, and providing them with the accountability, the motivation, and the encouragement that they need along the way. All right, now let's talk about 5 coaching questions that you can use to help people who might lack resilience to build more resilience in a manageable way. So that first question, what are some of the challenges or difficulties that you have overcome in the past? And letting them know that they're probably a lot more resilient than they give themselves credit for, and helping them to focus on the fact that they do have those skills and building upon the skills that they have. Question 2, how did you overcome those challenges? Again, getting them to develop a new narrative of one of self-empowerment. Question 3, what did you learn from the experience of having those challenges or difficulties? And letting them know that it's lifelong learning. As long as we're here, we're breathing, we're alive. Life is about engaging, and every experience that we have gives us an opportunity to develop our skills, this toolkit that we have that supports us to have the best life possible in every area of our life. The fourth question, what are some of the strengths or resources that you have or can access to help you cope with change? And this, again, is just giving them that awareness, because remember, sometimes people get caught in the narrative of, oh, woe is me. Remember, people lacking resilience, if they've got that victim mentality, and this has been a mentality that has been since childhood, quite possibly, and they don't realize that they're stronger than they think, because when they're not strong, they get more attention, they get more love, and whatever their needs and desires are. So it really is about guiding them to be self-empowered. And then the fifth and final question, what are some of the positive aspects or opportunities that you can find or create in the current situation of change? Letting them know that change is normal and natural, and getting them out of that sense of, oh, it's always something. No, helping them to see that, wow, this is fantastic. And less do they become overwhelmed by anything. And that's where helping them to see that resilience is their friend, but also not a tool to be used so that they ignore their feelings and emotions. No, not at all. It's about embracing every aspect of what they are experiencing, but seeing it in a way that, hey, that's okay, I can do this. and having the support, but also knowing that people aren't there to criticize them or find fault with them. No, they're there to support them. So these 5 questions are powerful when put into action, but I want you to keep listening because I'll let you know where you can download 5 more specific and powerful questions that are going to help you to coach low resilient people and guide them to become more resilient. Well, that's a wrap for this podcast. Hopefully you've been sharing your experience in the comments section. I want to hear from you. You bring with you so much valuable insight. And if this podcast, what you've been listening to, if it resonated with you, make sure you give it a thumbs up as well. Share with people who can benefit from it. If you are not a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so you're notified when the next podcast drops. I am your podcast host, Louise and Maurice, and I appreciate that you've spent your valuable time with me. As promised, I'm going to share with you where you can find the valuable PDF document with the rest of the coaching questions on it. You want to go to my website, louiseandmaurice.com, and you want to click on free or hover your mouse over free, and you see all of these resources that I have for you. Free coaching training, coaching questions, empowered mindset. The last one, What Should I Do?, which was the Empowered Prevention series. And now Coaching Podcast. You want to click on Coaching Podcast, and that will take you to the free resources associated with Season 1 of the Coaching Podcast.